Welcome back to the Hook Jake podcast. In this episode, we talk about what happened over the weekend with UFC Fight Night 151, go over UFC 237, and maybe a little bit of Bellator stuff.
They're here.
Welcome to the Hook J Podcast.
Who the fuck is that guy? Who the fuck is that?
When it's all said and done, I know one thing that I can do. I can fight. I can give it, and I can take it.
You should have left me over on that other game that I'm from, that more ruthless game where we bounce heads off the canvas and drill them into the floor. You should have left me where I was.
The show starts now.
So in this episode, I say we dive right in to the big fight of last week, which was Derek Brunson versus...
That's the fight you're going to talk about?
that's the big one, right?
That was not the fight.
That was the big snooze fest of the whole show, because every Derek Brunson fight is so boring.
It's not even his fault, really. I mean, entirely his fault, I should say, because Elias Theodorou he's not a very dynamic fighter, and he's not a whole...
It's
he's
funny.
not really fun to watch. I'll give him... The one thing I like about Elias, though, is he moves around a lot, and he keeps very good people in a spot where they're kind of confused a lot of time. This time it didn't work for him, and he walked out with a decision loss, but man, Brunson was a sleeper on this one too.
It's funny for a guy whose nickname is the main event, right? In that Elias's tag there, and that his nickname.
Yeah, I believe so.
I've never been excited to see him fight or anything. He's not very main eventish, but
Not
did he
really.
win? Did he win? No, Brunson won that one, right?
Yeah, Brunson got the decision win.
Okay. Let's actually hop into the big one that everybody wanted to watch, and the reason everyone tuned in, which was the Cowboy Cerrone versus Al Iaquinta. I can never say his name.
Yep, Iaquinta.
Iaquinta, the real estate agent. The man who got battered for 5 rounds from a left hook, or her left jab, rather.
Oh, man, the jab was tearing him up all night.
Yeah. It wasn't even...
25 minutes, that jab was just cutting him open.
The amazing part about it is it wasn't even, lightning fast, like some of the jabs are that people throw. It was just accurate.
It was on the money, it was on point, and heck, I think he knocked him down with 2 of those jabs, too.
Yeah, he knocked him down twice.
I know for one, I can't remember what the other one was from. I think the other one might have been from a left hook.
No, it was both from a jab, I believe.
Yeah, I know one of them was a strong jab, man, and it was crazy. It was right on the button. Other than that was the first time Al had ever been dropped.
That was the name of that entire fight was Cowboy, especially with his left jab. So just left jab. That's all. It really shows the having a developed jab like that in MMA, what that can do. There's very few people that do show it. Cowboy really shows you have to have certain fundamentals, and that's what he did. And it really showed what you can do with just having a great fundamental against somebody who's looking for you to throw a head kick, because you did it so much, but you come in with a better game plan. You really put pressure on him. I know Al was trying to come in, and he did catch Cowboy once or twice.
Oh, he got Cowboy a few times with some good left hands, and so he had one really good one that it looked more like where it caught Cowboy was a little bit behind the ear, maybe took his legs out from underneath him, but he was right back on his feet, and it was just
It wasn't devastating. It did stun him a little bit. It did hurt him, but it wasn't okay, I got to it was one of those I got to take a second and regroup.
Yeah, the one thing I liked about that fight is that when Cowboy would start, he would jab, kick. He would just keep Al kind of at range, and Al could never find his spot. He could never find his groove until he got in the pocket. When he got inside the pocket, Cowboy got hit a few times really hard, and kind of put him on notice, but Cowboy would always answer a punch with a punch. He didn't really do a whole lot of retreating or circling away, which is, typical Cowboy. But fire, right? And then the only parts I would start to get worried about in that fight is whenever they would go into an exchange and Cowboy was in the pocket and Al would counter him once or twice. That's the only time I really felt like Cowboy was in danger. But other than that, man, he put on an absolute clinic. He showed his age and his experience and how much he's developed, especially since having his son, and he's got that new fire in his.
He's
in his
on
eyes.
a
He's
3-fight
hungry
win streak,
again.
right?
Yeah,
3 fights.
Yep.
Yeah.
3. And then he's on a really nice hunger streak right now too, man. He is hungry and he's passionate about what he's doing again, and it's great to see it. And I'm really excited to see what happens next with Cowboy, because I hope he gets a title shot. I really do. I know he's not going to get it right away because I think Dustin's got the first runner-up because he's the interim right now. I really do think that he gets the next shot.
He's
whoever has the belt.
he's up there. He's definitely in the top. Well, Al was in the top 4, right?
Yeah.
So he's probably going to move up here pretty soon. He's going to be in the top 5 at least. So I imagine if Khabib comes back, when he does, or what's happening with that, if he sits out the fine or whatever he's going to do, then Dustin will have it because he's the interim. Then it will go on to the next person. If Dustin manages to beat Khabib, then it will be Cerrone and then Al. But Ferguson's in there, which throws the entire thing up.
And I'm really wondering what they're going to do with Ferguson, because Ferguson just put out on Twitter that he's back, but we don't know what he's coming back to. Or
The professional cut trailer that he put out for his upcoming summer blockbuster.
Yeah. Really anxious to see what he does next. And, man, I really don't know what to do or really think about Tony right now, but just given some of the drama that he's had recently with personal life, and I'm not going to really delve into that. I don't know enough about it. That's not me. I would like to see him get a title shot or an interim title shot at whoever's next, because I really think they were wrong for taking it from him.
Yeah, I think it was a very bad decision to especially pull it that quickly. I mean, you got other people like Conor that set out for a while. Robert just broke the record that Conor held for a while,
Yeah.
But I think Robert had a really good reason. He had his stomach hanging out of his abdomen, so you might want to give him a break.
Yeah, he had a twisted intestine, so there's not really much you could do about that.
Yeah, like it should probably be back soon. But I think Ferguson put out he has a fight back. He said he's gonna come back.
Yeah, I'm hoping whatever he's got going on is resolved, and we can finally get another T-Ferg fight. God, I would really like to see him finish that fight with Khabib, man, because they've been trying to arrange that thing, 4 or 5 times now?
5 times.
Jeez, it's ridiculous.
If they did another one, it'd be the 6th attempt. If that does happen, then I think from the time they announce the fight to the fight itself, you wrap them both in bubble wrap.
What else happened on that one? Oh, Cub lost to Shane Burgos, which actually that was a good fight all around. I mean, both guys performed very admirably. I think Shane just outstruck him and he got the better of Caleb. But both of them were in it to win it. The only thing that really kind of let me down was, I don't know if Cub was just having an off night or something, but he was just not as dynamic as he usually is. He just kept trying to exchange, and I don't know if he was trying to be more methodical and pick some shots, but he just looked like he was kind of having an off night. And there was one scorecard from the judges. It was a 30-27 Cub, which I don't know how. As much as I love Cub, that I don't know what that judge saw at a 30-27. Even Cub was kind of gave a head like, okay. And Shane, you can see a clip of Shane's face online or on Twitter. He's like, oh, what? There's no way.
Like, I didn't watch
I like that
the
fight.
entire card. I managed to catch the last couple fights, and then I watched the highlights when I could. And from what I know, because when I started to watch the fights, I was looking on Twitter, and they were like, the judges were completely off.
Yeah, all night, actually.
Yeah.
There was another few calls. Like, I think they got all the calls right on who won and who didn't win, but some of the scores they were putting out, I was like, man, what are y'all watching right now? If we're going to move on to other cards, Bellator had a pretty nice upkick finish. Did you happen to catch that one?
Did you catch both of them?
Yeah.
You catch the up kick, and then
The multiple upkick? The dude got upkicked like 4 times.
there was the up kick where he hit him twice and it dazed him, and then he got up and he finished him. And then there was, I think it was Ramon Daniels, which I always get confused with Raymond Decker, right?
The RD.
Yeah, they're similar, right?
Yeah, I get you.
And but Ramon Daniels, he did this like a hurricane kick, like he was gonna fake the hurricane, and then he
was
came
that
in with the arm,
Yeah,
with the right. Yeah.
That was impressive. I'm not even going to lie. That was impressive.
There's a
If you
like
were
he
just
is,
looking at that and that up kick that night, you would think that stuff is staged.
like I never, like when I watched one of those fights with him, especially, You don't really want to put money against him when it comes to striking, because he is one of the best people to ever step foot in that cage of any kind and do that, be it in MMA or karate where he's from or anything like that. Like, you don't really put money against him because he can pull something out like that.
The only thing I think is he needs to be in the UFC. I mean, the problem that I have, like, I'm not a UFC purist or anything like that, but the level of talent is very obvious that there's a huge difference from Bellator, which is steadily coming up, to UFC, because look at the transitions that people make. Some guys go from Bellator to UFC and they never have a chance. Some guys go from the UFC to Bellator and just wipe the floor of the competition. There's a big difference in the level of talent that both companies are trying to bring to their audience, and I really want to see how you perform against the UFC elite.
You know, in Bellator, you have like certain outliers, you know, that would do amazing in the UFC, like Michael Chandler. Michael Chandler would do great things in the UFC if he were to go
I
here.
think him, MVP. I think it was wrong to let Paul Daly go.
Paul Daly has all the right to be pissed at Dana White for that.
Yeah. There's a lot of moves between those two companies that I really don't agree with.
You can interchange a lot of the fighters now from Bellator with UFC and be like, okay,
but I don't
it's
think
a good
a lot
move.
of the ones from Bellator who make their start in Bellator are going to do very well going into the UFC at first. They're definitely not going to crack the top 10 right away.
Yeah,
There's very few.
I imagine there'd be a couple that you're like, okay, I can give these guys a shot within the top 10, but most of them, like if you would just take people from the undercard, probably not. You know, that it'll be a little bit before they get up there. But there's certain people there, like if you take Douglas Lima, right, you put him in there, no
Lima
problem.
could handle it.
MVP would be a rough start. He would have a rough start.
You think so?
I think so. If you put him against a good wrestler, because he's got a problem with Lima coming up.
Yeah, and I also think that MVP would have a problem because he tries to be dynamic and he tries to be a showstopper and get the crowd's attention. And I think there's a lot of people in the UFC, like the second you try that,
If you put MVP with, say, like against Tyrone Woodley, there's a big problem for him right there.
Oh yeah.
If you put him against Robbie Lawler,
that depends on which T-Wood shows up.
you put him there with Robbie Lawler, he's got a big problem.
Oh yeah.
Anybody in that welterweight division in the UFC can probably give him a lot of trouble, especially the higher people. Like Roy McDonald should have never left. They should have did everything possible to keep him in the UFC.
Have. I think he would have really gave that welterweight division in the UFC a huge run for their money.
Just imagine if he stayed, right? Woodley got the belt, and then you would have Woodley and McDonald too. Yeah, that would have been great to watch.
I still think Roy would have won it, but I think it would have been a lot different fight.
I think that one would have went to decision.
I'm really excited that there's a lot of championship moves right now, and in the UFC, a lot of the champions have moved around or been double champs, and it's freed up divisions. There for a while, man. There for about 8 months to a year. Everything was just kind of stagnant. So what do we got coming up?
UFC 237. This is the Brazilian card.
UFC 237. That's the Rose and Jessica Andrade card. See.
Yep.
So who else is on that card, Jacob?
See, you got a bunch of Brazilian legends. You got
who's the co-main? The co-main's Anderson Silva, right?
Yeah.
Is he fighting Cannonier?
Yeah.
Oh man, I can't really remember that.
Yeah.
Well, Cannonier's doing pretty good right now. He's kind of on a run.
Yeah.
I'm liking that fight.
I imagine they're putting him up against Silva because not only is Silva a big name, but they're trying to give him a little bit of a push. Maybe they're like, oh, we can sell out Brazil, you know, because they have the title fight and they have the legend underneath. You can kind of build a story off of Cannonier if he beats Silva, you know, which is, you know, it used to be a long shot, but, you know, Silva now is not Silva in his prime. And then underneath that, you have the Jose Aldo fight.
Yeah, I think that's going to be
Which
the good one.
is going to be
That
pretty
one's
good.
going to bring most of the fans in Brazil to the stadium.
You
King of
have
Rio.
the greatest champion in that division ever had. Right, a guy who had the belt for 10 years or so, or 12, or however long it was.
A very long time.
Very long time. He was the inaugural champ, held it for 10 years or so. I can't remember exactly the length. I know it's 10 plus. Against Alexander the Great, right, who's on his way up. It's fun to watch him, you know. So that's a good storytelling. It's also a good fight to watch between the two. and it kind of sets up the next era of that division. You know, you have an upcomer. You know, it's number 1 versus number 4.
He's fighting Alexander Hernandez, right?
Yeah, whoever wins that probably gonna get the title shot.
I don't know if Alex is going to be able to handle the King of Brazil because he could barely handle Cowboy.
Connor's not there. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Cowboy lit him up, man. Cowboy showed him that, you know, look, we get it, you're good, but you're not that good. Unless he went back to the drawing board and really stuck to it, and I don't know. I don't know what he's going to bring that Jose hasn't seen from somebody else other than a 12-second punch.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it happens and what game plan Alexander's going to have to come in with. Because you got to manage the range, right?
You got to if Jose will get back to his kicks.
Yeah, which is never going to happen. He's never going to do it. I don't know why. I don't know if he broke his foot 1,000 times and they're like, fine, you can't kick anymore. But like, you got to do it. You know, he was amazing at managing range when he first started in the UFC. All that run that he had where he was like just kicking the shit out of people's knees. That was an amazing run, and it showed you how effective leg kicks were. And he, you know, as a guy who grew up watching it, like I just want to see him do it more still, because lately he's focused more on his boxing and his hand speed and movement like that. But there's so many people that you watch and you're like, yeah, he could have just leg kicked the hell out of him and be done with it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it because Alex Hernandez is a really good prospect. He's got a lot of potential, and I mean, going forward, he could be one of the front runners, top 5 guys who really maintains that division. And I'm looking forward to seeing Jose again, of course, but I'm really wondering if Jose's on his way out or if he's still in it to win it like he used to be.
Then underneath that, you have Thiago Alves. He's fighting, which will be pretty good. You know, he's a notable person in that division.
He is, but I'm not really anxious to watch that fight.
Oh yeah, these are just like notable names I'm reading off right now.
Yeah, I think right now the rest of that card is just going to be.
Let's see, honorable mentions. One of the Nogueira brothers, the
Locals,
one that's
right?
still fighting.
Little Nog, right?
I believe so. I think Big Nog retired, so this has got to be Little Nog.
Well, they look exactly the same.
Yeah, they're twins. And then second honorable mention, BJ Penn versus Clay Guida.
One thing I like about him, he looks like Animal from the Muppets. Every time he's moving his head, the hair just goes flying everywhere. He reminds me of that.
You know what's interesting is like when UFC first started and got kind of big, and I started watching it. BJ Penn was this like big, like legendary dude, right?
He was the guy.
He was the new guy. He was beating the hell out of everybody. He had all these wins, and you didn't think he was gonna win because he didn't look like it. But you look at his record now. He's been in the UFC for quite some time. You know, he's fought professionally for quite some time. You know what his record is? 16, 13, and 2. Yeah, it's weird, isn't it?
Wow.
You think about it, I was like, man, I thought he had more wins than that, right? And less losses. But, you know, I'm pretty sure most of his losses were either at the very beginning of his career or now at the very end, the tail end, because I don't think he's won a fight in a while.
Right.
But it's one of those things that, like, you see him on a card, you're like, I don't want to see you fight, but go for it, brother. Like, I'm rooting for you, man. He's the Rudy of the UFC at this point. And then I think that's pretty much all the people that probably find interesting on this card. And then we have Bellator this weekend. You want to talk about Bellator?
Let's do it. Let's talk about Bellator.
Let's just do the main event and the co-main event because it's on the poster. The co-main event is the Douglas Lima and Michael Venom Page.
Man, I did not think that was 2.5 months ago that they had that MVP fight with Daly. I guess it was back in February, huh?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this one because I've been saying it a few times. This should be the fight where we really get to see MVP in a wrestling match. And I think Lima's got what it takes to get inside and grab him. And I think MVP, since he got taken down by Daly, Paul Daly of all people, who's got little to no wrestling, wrestled you.
Well, he's got wrestling. He took down MVP.
Little to no wrestling. But Lima, who has a lot of wrestling, is going to fight a guy who got taken down by somebody with very little wrestling. This should be a really, really good fight because if Lima was paying attention, his camp was paying attention, Paul Daly kind of wrote a blueprint out like, hey, look, guys, he's great, don't get us wrong. He's good at standing up and striking. But get inside his range and grab him, he really couldn't do anything. And Paul Daly he's a heck of a striker, and he's got a lot of power. But for somebody like that to grab you and kind of put you on the ground, while he couldn't hold him down, the threat was there then, so the game plan had to change. It really showed the whole MVP's game, like, hey, this guy is not really as good as we all thought he might be. There's a huge hole here.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you watched any MVP's previous fights, you're like, all right, he likes to keep his distance, wait for the shot, and take it. He's going to batter you from a range, kick your legs out a little bit, try to keep you at the end of his jab, and then when he sees an opportunity, he's going to hit you. And if any time between there he feels comfortable enough, he might throw some spinning stuff in there. He might wait for you to go for a takedown after you've showed you're going to go for it a couple times and react. His whole thing was keeping you at a distance and then reacting to it. Daly was the first person to be like, all right, I can kind of go through it and turn MVP into a wrestler, He's like, okay, I have to wrestle now. So I imagine with Lima, if he can get through what MVP likes to do is his ranged attack, If he can get through that, then it's probably going to take place up against the cage and then down to the floor. Because I have a feeling that Lima might put him up against the cage, or if he can't get him to the cage, take him down and shove him in the corner and work him from up top. That's how I see that fight going if they're smart. If Lima decides to wrestle him, which he very well could. If MVP or if Paul Daly can wrestle you, right, and you can, it'd be a little trouble, I'm sure Douglas Lima can do it with little to no problem. But then again, Roy McDonald, he handily beat Douglas Lima from a distance,
Yeah, but we're also talking about Roy McDonald.
Yeah.
Somebody I don't think even MVP would be able to beat. On his good day, I don't know. Lately, Roy's been seeming a little off, but...
Shh, Bellator doesn't want us talking about that.
I don't know if MVP could really hold up in a clinch either. Paul Daly grabbed him and kind of walked him over the cage and then did a takedown on him.
It depends on what he did after that fight. I know it's not long for it, but I imagine he probably went back to the drawing board if he's one of the guys that's like, all right, what'd I do wrong? And looked at it. If he takes the Michael Chandler approach where if anything goes wrong in a fight, he beats himself up about it for years at a time. So if he takes that approach where he's like, I did this wrong and I'm going to improve on it, then who knows what might happen. But I don't think his personality is like that. I think he might have some trouble with that as well.
Who else is on that card?
Speaking of Michael Chandler, it's the Michael Chandler versus it's so hard to say these guys' names. Is it Patricio? Pitbull? Because there's two Pitbulls, right?
I believe so.
I think there's 2 or 3 Pitbulls in Bellator. This is one of them. Pitbull A and Pitbull 2.
Yeah, I mean, Michael Chandler is always fun to watch. And with him going up against Patricio Pitbull, I want to say Fry or Freddy. I cannot remember how to say the last name correctly. But with him going up against Pitbull, that should be another one that's really good to watch. Chandler's always impressive. Striking's through the roof, man.
Yeah.
Pitbull, I've only remember seeing 1 or 2 of his fights, so I'm not gonna.
He's very aggressive, is what it is.
Yeah, I can't. There's two or three different Pitbulls. I keep getting them freaking mixed up right now. I can't really remember watching his fight off the top of my head, so I'm not gonna give a statement on that one. But Chandler's always interesting to watch. I really do like watching Michael Chandler. His striking compared to the competition is usually levels beyond.
Yeah.
He's one of the people I would love to see over in the UFC.
It seems like at this point, the UFC should have did everything possible to get that talent away from Bellator when they had the chance. If they wanted to beat him, right? If they wanted to
still do it now.
No, he's he's like, Bellator treats me so much better than any other organization would. I'm staying here. because not only does he get the show up thing, but he gets the championship bonus, he gets the title defense bonus, he gets all this other stuff. He gets to use his sponsorships, you know. And Bellator, I don't know if you know this, but Scott Coker is the man when it comes to the way they treat fighters, right?
Well, him and one championship.
Yeah, both of them.
Going out of their way right now to.
Well, in the U.S., it's Scott Coker, right? He's the guy. Even though the UFC has like the PI Center and all that, which is great, but they don't treat their fighters nearly as good as Bellator does. That's pretty much all the big events coming up.
So May will bring us the UFC 237 card, which should be a good one. That I'm looking forward to Rose coming back, and then Bellator is going to be bringing us the MVP and Lima fight will be the semifinal round for the left side of bracket, and then Rory will have to fight Gracie. He'll have to fight Gracie for his side, and if he makes it through Gracie, we'll get to see a rematch of potentially Rory versus Lima, which was a good fight the first time around. Or we could end up seeing, any mixture of these guys.
The interesting part about it is you think about this from a Roy's standpoint, right? He threw his hat in the ring, right? He was already champ, right?
Yep.
So my question to you is, does he get the championship bonus or whatever for showing up and defending the title?
I mean, I would think so, man.
That's a good question.
Well, yeah, May should be a good month for title fights, but after the Bellator Grand Prix semifinal with those two, and then the UFC 237 event, I'm drawing a blank on some of the other fight night cards, but I'm drawing a blank is because there's not really
like Gustafson and Smith.
Yeah,
that's one.
That seems like a throwaway. Like, hey guys, we're having a fight night.
There's no real big ones coming up
Because even those guys both just fought Jones.
Yeah.
So what are you guys fighting for right now? You're not going to get another title shot this soon.
238, where you got Cejudo going for the second belt, right? Which will be decent. That's a decent one.
It's one I can't wait to see either.
And then you got a couple good. You have a fight night that you can kind of skip over. I don't think there's really much on that one. And you have another one that's the Woodley Lawler fight, which is one you want to watch again. Then you just go into the pay-per-view. So according to the UFC, the John Jones and Santos is a UFC fight night.
Oh yeah, well they got that mixed up.
Which
one of those cards? I thought Askren and Gamebred was going to be on.
It's on there.
238 or 239.
I think it's 230.
They should use that on 238 because 239 should have Amanda and Holly Holm.
Their whole website is messed up most of the time. Like I'm looking at it right now, and you're like,
how about this fight that just got announced? The DC and Stipe rematch finally. I'm really excited for that one. It only took a year plus, but
yeah,
we finally get to see Stipe get his shot at redemption. Being the most accomplished heavyweight, it's been a long time coming, and he's had this whole time to sit out and recover from any other injuries he may have had pending, and because we don't know if he was compromised going into that fight. He looked good up until he got that blindsided right.
It's going to be a good rematch between the two because one of them is going to be hungry for it. The other one's going to try to maintain it because he wants, DC wants to fight again. He wants 2 more fights, one with Stipe, and he said he wants Jones at heavyweight, right? Which who knows how that's going to work out. But he's got to get past Stipe first, right? So he's got to maintain that in order to get that money fight because there is no way that DC is going to fight Jones again without them putting some bank down on DC.
I really don't want to see Jones versus DC again, but what if Jones DC3 at heavyweight, DC just annihilates him?
It's going to be interesting because I don't think, I think Jones would go for it. I think he'd take the bait, but I don't think Jones is going to be nearly as good at heavyweight than he was at light heavyweight because
compromised.
When he put on a little bit of weight with the weightlifting, right? With when he came back, he did his first return after the first suspension, second suspension, whatever you want to call it, against OSP. He had a little bit more mass on him, and he was slow. He didn't move quite as fast. So I imagine with the extra weight, right? Because he's got to make 230 something, 235 to be heavyweight.
225.
That was 235.
225 is the minimum. Because Stipe usually comes in just over top of that.
I think
He's Stipe was the champ, and he was the lightest heavyweight. His
So
225
either way,
is the
he
limit.
makes the 225, right? That's an extra 20 pounds. If putting on mass slows him down at 205, he was able to make the weight for his return, right? But putting on mass slows you down. Imagine 20 pounds extra, right? It's going to slow him down significantly. I don't know if he'll be able to move quite as fast, or he's going to have to rely more on his skill, right?
Yeah, he's gonna have to really put it to DC with technique alone.
Yes. Which we know Jones has a lot of it,
Oh yeah.
but most of his technique comes right after poking somebody in the eye. So I don't know how he's going to fare.
They're pico poke.
Pico pokes?
Yeah.
That sounds like something you can throw a Pokeball at. I mean, you gotta think, like, with the extra weight, how is that gonna affect him? Is he gonna move quite as fast? He's gonna have to rely on more technique. And can DC, because DC hits harder at heavyweight, you know?
Oh yeah.
He moves a little bit better when he's at heavyweight, when he don't have to cut that much. So, I don't know. It's gonna be interesting. Jones made a career out of beating middleweights, so I imagine when he goes to heavyweight and he has to fight a heavyweight, that's gonna be
heavyweight.
yeah.
Yeah.
But even then, if you think about that, like, he goes through, say he beats DC, right? Heavyweight division's kind of slow right now, right? It's very slow. The only people you're going to probably put him against is Derek Lewis, Francis, maybe JDS, right? You have really nobody. It's not a very deep division.
Yeah, unfortunately. Although I would love to see Jones go up against Johnny Walker in a year or two when Walker's got some talent, a little more talent.
I think he's plateauing in his career. I don't think he's going up anymore. Because you look at the people he's fought recently, it's either people that he's fought before or they're middleweights that are going up. Jones never has been a draw. He's a big name, but he's never been a draw without DC. The only time he's ever actually made a ton of money was with a feud with DC. Other than that, no one cared for him. His biggest fights that he sold the most pay-per-views with, right, with his name on it, were either combination with another championship fight with DC or with like a big opponent, with like a Rampage Jackson or a Chael Sonnen or someone like that who had a bigger name at the time. He has never been a draw. He's a big name now for the hardcore fans, the people that are like, oh, I love MMA, I'm going to watch it all the time. But you go out and you ask just a random person on the street who John Jones is, most of the time they'll go, I don't know. But you ask them who Conor McGregor is, they know.
Yeah.
You ask them who Ronda
There's a
Rousey
huge
is,
difference.
they know.
Yeah, well, they're also transcend the sport in a way that Jones hasn't. Jones has been a participant in the sport.
You ask them who Anderson Silva is, most of them know,
Most people know who Anderson Silva is.
right?
Yep.
There's certain people that they know. Jones has never been the casual fan or the casual or the person. Like, if you ask your grandmother right now who Conor McGregor is, she can probably tell you, right?
Yeah, she might have a hint, yeah.
If you ask who Ronda Rousey is, she can probably tell you, right? You ask who John Jones, no way.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to go with every sport, though. I mean, there's going to be people who are great that just fly under the radar of so many people. But if we're going to talk about John Jones, he's got to make it through that sledgehammer he's got coming up.
Thor guy?
Yeah. Thiago Santos.
Yep.
Thiago Marreta, which is literally sledgehammer. The dude hits so hard, man.
Another
So
middleweight
hard.
that went up. I think this is going to be an interesting fight for him, of course. You know, he's fighting the champ for the first time.
Yep.
But if you look at his record that I have pulled up now, I noticed that you have people like Uriah Hall that has a win over him. Gegard Mousasi, who's got a win over him. And those two right there, you're like, those are long. Those are
but
lean guys.
Look at the divisions they were in. Those are at the 185 division.
Yeah, but still. And, you know, you look at that and you go, okay, those are long and lean guys. And you have people like, you know, he's got other, when he has been finished, like Gegard Mousasi KO'd him. David Branch KO'd him. I don't know if Jones has the power to do it, but I know he can connect.
Oh, easily.
So I don't know if there'd be a finish, right? But I do know Jones is going to be watching out for that right hand. And I don't know how that's going to happen. I imagine we could probably put money down on the eye pokes that it's going to happen to keep him away.
I'm really hoping now that Thiago Santos is at 205, his chin isn't as compromised. Being, you know, cutting weight really does take its effect on the body, and you can see that in a lot of fighters, especially Luke Rockhold.
Well, you can really look at his last couple of fights where he's able to take more damage, right? When he fought Eric Anders, he goes to the third round. When he fights Jimmy Manoa, he went to the second round. His last fight was the third round. So he's able to take more damage now since he's went up, Whereas when he was a middleweight, you look at his record, most of them are 1 round, 2 rounds, somewhere in there. So maybe that's what he needed, is just moving up.
Other than those things, you got anything else, Jake? News?
I read earlier that Yoel and Costa could possibly come out at 241. So
maybe finally they'll get their fight. Would it be the third time they've tried to fight?
Yeah,
one was sick one time due to stomach issues.
Aiming for that, but who knows at this point, because I don't know. There's many different violations that people claim.
Yeah, I know Yoel's going through a deliberation right now for the Tainted supplements,
which he
were
should.
Legit.
Yeah, which he should.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a legit case in that.
Yeah,
they all found out, and I think somebody else popped in that group too for it.
Yeah, well, he legitly has a case, and he should sue the hell out of him, and he should win.
Money.
Yeah,
they cost him a lot of money.
Well, it also defaced him a little bit.
Yeah,
people were like, "Oh, now he's doing steroids," and you're in a career where that's kind of frowned upon. So he should. I agree with you. You should sue the hell out of him, even though that you look at him, you're like, "Are you sure he's not on anything else?"
There's not really a whole lot going on in the MMA community right now. We've kind of taken a break from the TJ Dillashaw's and all the other stuff that's going on right now. I'm hoping nothing else happens other than good news, and hopefully eventually we get some good fight announcements coming up for some fight nights, because the fight nights seem a little stale at the moment, but I'm still excited for this weekend. We got Rose coming back, going to make her comeback finally after the bus incident and her defending her title. We haven't had no movement in that strawweight division. Finally,
it's been very stagnant.
Yeah.
No movement, just a puddle.
I don't even think stagnant's the word for it. It's been there.
I think going forward, this is kind of the slow part of the year right now, which seems interesting because International Fight Week's coming up.
Well, I think they're trying to. What they should do is do a few fielder cards, which is what it feels like they're doing.
Yeah.
That way, you're hungry for International Fight Week. Now, don't get me wrong, man. We could get nothing but 5 one-round knockouts in this main card coming up, or some barn burners, 15, 25-minute fights, but I really don't think it's going to happen.
I imagine come
decisions
towards the end of the year, right around August, they'll start announcing some bigger fights.
Well, yeah, they'll be trying to close out the end of the year really strong.
Yeah, for sure. All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for this week. Thank you guys for listening. Guys and girls, I should include both of you. There's only one person listens to this, so him, her, zer. Whatever you are, thank you for listening, liking, sharing, subscribing, telling your friends about it, sending a telegraph. If you know Morse code and you decide to tell your friends about that in Morse code, thank you. Follow us on Twitter. I am at HookedJP. My co-host is at HookedJustin.
At HookedJustin.
That's what I said.
I just want to say it again.
This is why no one likes you.
You're why nobody likes you.
That makes more sense. Thank you, guys. We good?
I'm good.
Bye.
Later.
Thank you for listening to the Hook J Podcast. Hope you enjoyed today's show. See you next episode.
Sometimes you've got to do what's right for you and not do what's right for everybody else.